Well, the warning is out on what's being called a growing and aggressive breed of super pigs, and it could become a multi-billion-dollar problem for U.S. agriculture. Canadian officials warn the animals are a crossbreed of wild boars and domestic pigs, and they're on America's doorstep. Joining me now, I have Dr. Ryan Brook, professor at the University of Saskatchewan. Doctor, good morning to you. First, what the heck is a super pig, and why are most of us just hearing about it this week?
Hi, good morning. Yes, super pigs are something that is relatively new in Canada. We've only had them starting in the 1980s, so this is a relatively recent problem, but they have just exploded out of control. They breed really fast. They have multiple litters per year, 6 per litter on average. So
Wow.
your average pig is having 12 babies per year. So that just means they can just spread like wildfire, and they do. They've spread over huge areas of Canada and continue to expand. And a lot of people said, well, they're not going to survive a cold Canadian winter. We get 40 below. Yesterday morning, the thermometer literally read 40 below in my backyard. And so how do they
Oh,
survive that? Well, they have this heavy, thick coat of fur, and they tunnel under the snow to stay warm.
yeah, we're here in Chicago. It's -6, and I thought that was bad. I can't imagine the other. So if this is kind of a new phenomenon, where did they come from?
This originated from a desire to raise them on farms in Canada. And so they were brought over from the UK originally in the 1980s and 90s. There was a big push in Canada to diversify agriculture. So we had elk ranches and emu farms, and wild boar were brought in. And they seemed like a good idea at the time. But now that they've gotten out and spread and they're reproducing in the wild, they're turning into a total nightmare.
Yeah, so a crossbreed between a wild boar, a domestic pig. We're playing some of this video here, but just elaborate on just the scope of the damage that one of these pigs can do.
Well, I mean, we call them the worst invasive large mammal on the planet for a reason. They are incredibly destructive. Unlike a lot of wildlife, your elk and your deer are munching on grass, and away they go. Pigs get their nose in the ground and they rip it up. It's called rooting, and they eat huge amounts of plants and crops, and they'll eat small mammals. We've seen stomachs full of frogs and salamanders, everything up to white-tailed deer they'll take down and eat. And so they tear the ground apart, they eat almost everything, and they cause tremendous environmental destruction, and they destroy water quality as well.
Yeah, sounds like a real menace. Do you think it's not a matter of if, but rather when these spill over into the United States?
Well, I always like the saying that the future isn't predicted, it's invented. And I think that we could prevent it. We just have to get real serious real fast. I think we've been sort of dabbling on this issue. And I think to be a good neighbor, I think Canada has to really step up and get these things under control. And so this is, along the Canada-US border, this is very much a Canada issue to step up and be a good partner on. And so I think that at some point, I've been saying this same thing, by the way, for 15 years. And so maybe this year something will stick and we'll get real serious about this.
You've been sounding the alarm for that long on these super pigs. What worries you most then? Is it agricultural damage? Is it disease getting spread? I mean, what's top of mind for you when it comes to concerns?
Wow, that's a great question. I would say all of the above for sure, but disease is the big one. Disease is the one that could be catastrophic. And so we have a disease, not in North America right now, but called African swine fever, a pig disease that could get into domestic pigs. And that's the one that keeps me awake at night because it can spread through wild pigs for sure. And we know these pigs cover huge areas. We put GPS satellite collars on them, and they can do a marathon in a day easily. So they cover huge
Really?
areas. Yeah.
Wow. Wow. Now, are people hunting these? Is that legal? I mean, how are people
That
handling
is, in
these when
fact,
there's
part of
huge
the
herds of
main
them?
problem, to be honest. Hunting, it is open season on them on the Canadian prairies, but hunting just breaks up groups and spread them around. And so we have open season across all of Western Canada. But in fact, that's one of the biggest parts of the problem is that open season, you break up groups and spread them around. So if you want lots of pigs and you want to spread them around the landscape, have an open season. But you can't barbecue your way out of a wild pig problem. Hunting does not reduce numbers. The numbers keep going up and they spread the more you hunt them. We need control efforts like ground trapping. We use a thing called a Judas pig, where you put a GPS satellite collar on it and track it to find other pigs.
Oh,
So the tools are out there. We
makes
have
sense.
them. We just have to get real serious about actually implementing them and at a big scale.
Thanks for watching, everybody. Go to joinnn.com to find NewsNation on your television provider. Also, don't forget to click that red subscribe button below to get more of NewsNation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.